Okay, thanks everyone for joining today's session. We're really happy from ImageX team to start presenting to you some of the things that we've been working on. So I'll start by sharing the screen in just a second, and I'm not gonna ask that annoying question of, guys, can you see my screen? Okay, let's go. So today we're gonna present to you some, in a sense, collaboration between our developers and design team. And we're going to also highlight some of the one of the case studies we've been working on, which is the Drupal's layout build, the Bootstrap layout builder. So a little bit about us. I'm Mahya, like papaya, if you can kind of remember. But I have here with me Aaron and Mahmoud, two of our software architects, and I'm a senior UI UX designer. So a little bit about the session. We're going to start by doing a little bit of introduction, talking about some of the problems, approaches, and principles we found out during our design and dev process. And then I hand it over to Mahmoud for his take on the Bootstrap layout builder, and we're going to hand it over to Aaron for the cool part, which is the demo. Okay, a little bit about me. I'm Mahya. I started my design career in South Africa in 2010. I moved there from Iran. So imagine I went there and I saw this beautiful, landscape. I kind of fell in love and I landed my first job right after graduation in graphic design and started working with a client on designing an appointment scheduling app. So imagine I was a graphic designer with zero experience working with developers or coding. And I had to work with about 20 developers on that app, and we had just another designer. So I soon realized that the problem and the struggle was real. I really couldn't understand how I should work with a developer. We had this, problems rising, and then every time I had to kind of go and do this little mini fight with them because we really didn't get each other. And I understood that the problem is that we really don't know much about each other, and that was about 10 years ago. But since then, I kind of started working to understand development a little bit more and reduce this layer of kind of resistance between the two teams. I came to this, and it's very simple, but it took me a long time to understand that developers are the users. As designers, we always talk about, users are very important, and we need to make sure we understand the users, but we really forget that our developers, they need to understand it exactly the same way. So if something's not adding up, something's not working, it means that something's not adding up. We, fast forward to 10 years after, I came to Canada, started working for one of the top Drupal agencies in North America. And then I still found that passion that I had working with our developers, that I wanted to make sure that approach that we have towards this, collaboration is right. So we said, okay, guys, let's see what we should do. We said, okay, let's discuss what doesn't work. One of the things that we know for a fact with design team, we had problems was that we just had so many questions back and forth during the design handover phase between designers and developers. We also had a lot of increased scope because we didn't really have that alignment between the two teams. From our developer side, of course, you can see that it's heavier because they had to do a lot of redos and reworks. They would, start with coding, and then later on, when it gets to Q&A, they would catch issues, or they had to resolve some of these inconsistencies, while they were doing the mockups. And then, of course, as you guys know, when it gets to the bigger picture and we had these big changes, we had to go back to kind of square one. We had to go back to the client and even kind of repeat the design phase. And it just didn't really match our agile workflow. So we discussed, okay, let's see what we should do. So you can see now the design side is a little bit heavier. We knew that, for design, we need to make sure we kind of do this smooth handover with the developers. That was one of the key things. And in that process, we realized that our UI kits, they need to have all these elements as a design system would. For instance, all the fundaments and all the components needs to be there. The responsive version of each of these components needs to be available for our developers. And then this in general makes everything smoother and just brings a lot more consistency. So this was definitely one of the things we want to make sure we tackle. From our developers, they knew that they want to kind of build this modular components that are responsive out of the box, and just in general treating our pages as collection of components that kind of follow a layout. So we started implementing few things in our company. I'm going to go through them, but not everything is going to work for your organization. So we'll discuss what worked for us, and then eventually kind of some of the takeaways that we had from this. So we started really implementing atomic design to the core. We started with our atoms. Here I have an example of a button, a simple example, and we kind of put the molecules together. We put our organism, we created our templates, and kind of eventually our pages. And this is just an example of our corporate site that we worked on about, I think, a couple of months back. One of the other things that really helped us was this developer reviews. So when designer was in the stage of doing the wireframes, we would pull the developer in and we would ask for reviews. So as soon as a design is done, a first blueprint is done, no matter how rough or kind of hi-fi was it, we took it to the developer, asked them to give their feedback, and then just make sure that we're not kind of going over and beyond what the scope of the project is. And we kind of repeat this process throughout when we got to visual design too. One of the points I made earlier was about the UI kit. So you can see here on top, we have the foundation elements like typography, colors, icons, cards, and then we would also put together all the components we're using in a website. So this, in a sense, was this little mini Bible that we handed over to developers. Even though we worked on, websites, we kind of treat it as we would a design system or an app. So for all the projects, we gave this one very detailed style guide to make sure that everything, all the things that they want is there. And we just took it to kind of the next level in that sense. One of the recent things we've been doing is annotation. This is kind of the old school way of doing it. So, back then you would write the annotation right next to the design. But the way that we approach it as components. So for each component, we would go and mark it with a number. We would highlight the number below, discuss what exactly is, what are the description on it. And when you get to BA or developers, it really helped them with putting together the feature requirements and just making sure everything's well-rounded. And then if we had later on a problem with the component, then we could say, guys, component number 2, we have this problem with it, let's evolve it. And we would repeat the same component throughout the design. So this kind of really helped our process being smoother, not having new things popping in every single page. We also created this in-sprint involvement. So this one was pretty easy. When we get to the kind of the Jira tickets, the BA would go through the tickets, and if there's anything even a little unclear, they would ask the designers, hey guys, can you let us know about this functionality? So at that point, again, we're just repeating to make sure everything it gets to developer, it's kind of bulletproof. And lastly, we also introduced visual QA. So when the QA is done, the website is ready, then the designer would go there and kind of do the visual QA. So they will pick up anything that doesn't match their design that perhaps the QA person couldn't really pick up. So this again would help us to make sure that whatever as designers we wanted to do is there and reflected in the design. So, I kind of went through it fast, but I wanted to make sure that whatever, highlight again that not everything might work for you. So we put down some of the 5 principles that we thought that can help your organization, just, some core things that you can apply and would just help with your collaborations between designers and developers. So I think one of the first things that really helped us was just the shift in our brains to say, okay, guys, we're pretty much doing the same thing. So we, I, as a designer, love to talk about, design systems, and developers love to talk about their modular code and, how easy is it to maintain. So the more we understand as designers how, code works, for developers is the same thing. They need to kind of understand the topography, so that understanding between the two really will help just the collaboration goes a lot more smoother. And I discussed about it, but we need to get involved real soon. So developers need to be part of the project since the beginning of the project. And I know usually they pulled in later on in the phase, but we need to do the exact same thing when developers also doing coding. So then the designer needs to be involved a little bit more to make sure that whatever decision we're making together and kind of have an efficient process in general. I emphasize on this, but spending time on handovers is a key. I mean, we all work on different times on a project, and it's just important to know that, okay, like how the developers are actually accessing asset, just literally a checklist of making sure everything's kind of smooth, and they have everything they need. This one is, again, was something that we did in our thinking of just being flexible. We are used to kind of doing things the way that we do, but what if a designer finds this cool library that they can share with a developer that can, hey guys, can you do that interaction? Or, vice versa, a developer can introduce something that can help the designer in kind of creating one less of a design, or just giving them some guideline. And this all goes back to kind of the idea of knowledge share. So in our company, what we do is that once a month we huddle, and all the developers and designers get together. We talk about a topic or a struggle that is happening, no matter how small, and we just trying to solve it, or at least come up with some solution. I think that, again, emphasizes the understanding and help us do better. So now we're going to get to the meaty and real good part. So one of the things that we started working was additional layout builder modules. So we started doing the exact same thing as we would in our new process. And that was, again, going through every little stage together. So we started with collaborating on, brainstorming what exists and what features we need to do and add to this functionality. So we went back to a drawing board and crafted some new features and ideas we had. And we put together kind of the roadmap and kind of prioritize, okay, who's doing what? And then let's get to following our atomic design and creating this new module. So following the atomic design, we did the exact same thing with our design process. So we created both dark theme and light theme, following, doing things like type, theme colors, icons, and buttons at our first start, and later on adding the the molecules and organisms to create our plugin designs. So you can see that here we have a few of the examples of how we put together some of these designs, and later on with the handover, Mahmoud is going to talk about it a little bit more. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, Maya. That's really interesting. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, guys? Sweet. My name is Mahmoud Zaid. I'm software architect at ImageX Media. I was born on Egypt, and I'm doing development by Drupal since 2008. I got a chance to work with many clients from different cultures, from Middle East, Europe, USA, and finally I landed here in Canada 2019. During this journey, all my customers agree on one thing. Drupal CMS is a difficult one. Comparing with this on the market like Joomla, WordPress, and other tools. Also, they say Drupal is a tool built for developers, not for site builders. I think most of us as Drupal developers aware about this one. DrupalCon Vienna 2017. Dries has announced some initiatives to enhance the user experience to solve this issue. One of these initiatives was Layout Builder, which became a Drupal core module later. But unfortunately, when I heard that we have to develop by Layout Builder, it came to mind that this announcement it's related to site building, which is like some of popular site buildings tool, which is something built for content editor, built for site builder, something that's based on drag and drop and based on visualizing. Unfortunately, I was working on this module with, on this website with a team, and my role at this project to give a training to the client. When I was giving the training, the client asked, what is the wrapper? What is the classes? What is section attributes? Unfortunately, still developers build tools for developers, not for site builders. So the summarize of this problem, we need to find a solution. The solution is a bridge between the developer and content editor or a site builder. It's something like mapping. I need to assign classes. I need to assign attributes. I need to do wrappers. Okay, but the client or the editor himself doesn't understand this. So the solution for this problem is visualizing. We need to visualize or create a tool that the content editor easy to understand as a concept of drag and drop. Just select what I want. I need to change background color. I just need to select the background color without understanding this background color, assign a particular class to the element. So we decided to create some modules. These modules help us visualizing this idea. One of main modules we have created is Bootstrap styles, and I call it also styles plugin inventory. Why I choose plugin design pattern? Because it's popular in Drupal community. It's used in many places like blogs, views, and many other core and contributed modules as well. It's easy to maintain if we have a bug or any issue related to one plugin, we can focus on this plugin to fix its issue. Also, we can integrate any other Drupal out of the box functionality or integration with Drupal core modules. For example, if we like to integrate plugin with permission or rules, it will be something very easy to implement. The last thing, we can override or edit any things that we don't like. So Bootstrap styles is a module that provides some plugins out of the box and also responsible for the discovery. It scans the rest of modules at our project and see if it has any plugins. It's collect and add to the list of plugins. The list of plugins, which is, if you can see the right sidebar, we have background, typography, spacing, border, shadow, animation, and we call it plugins group. This plugins group or each plugin group can contain some of sub plugins. We call it style plugins. So from previous screen, we need to understand how to create a new plugin so we can edit on this panel and remove the plugins that we don't like or introduce new plugins. The first thing, we need to understand how to create a plugin group. We can do that if we create a custom module or if we like to contribute back to Bootstrap styles. Under plugin Bootstrap styles group, and then we can name the plugin group name. For example, background. all we need to add at annotation the ID of the group that we like, give it some title like background, and the weight, which is allow us to sort this order, and the icon, which is represents the icon appear on the left. And we have two groups of functions. The group one is responsible of assigning some configuration part to the backend, which is available under admin configuration and this list, so we can configure this tool. And the second group is responsible of assign fields to the layout builder dialog, which is appear on the right when we click configure section or edit any block. More information about the background example. Here is the sample of configuration page. If we hit admin configs bootstrap styles setting, here we can see a list of plugins group. If we create a new one from custom module, we should see it at the bottom or at the top. It's depend on the weight. And we can also add a fields here for configuration. It can be radio, it can be text area, it can be any field type, and listen to submit configuration form, which is allow us to save the fields values to form state when we save this page. And then, as you can see, the layout builder part, which is appear on the layout builder dialog. Here, the background word, it's come from the annotation, and the icon as well, it's come from annotation. And we have some shared configuration between the sub plugins. For example, in background, we have background type, which is something contain like background image, background color, background video. And we have styles plugin. Each style plugin, it's single responsibility. Like I have a style plugin, which is called background color. And we have style plugin, which is background image. We can't do, or we can't add anything shared between two plugins in any of these plugins. So here is also comes the idea of making the sharing configuration between the sub plugins in one place, which is the plugin group. The plugins itself, as I mentioned, we have something like background color. And at this plugin type, we need to just say the ID of the plugin itself, give it a name like background color, and do the relationship between the plugin or style plugin and the plugin group. So group underscore ID means that this plugin, it's children of the main plugin, which is plugin group. And the same stuff, we have three types of functions group. We have the first one, which is deal with the backend, admin configuration, bootstrap styles, and maybe add some configuration we are going to use in the front end later. And the layout builder dialog, the dialog appear on the sidebar, or it's appear on the block itself. And the build, which is convert all this configuration to assign the classes or assign the attributes to element render array. Some of example related to the background color. On background color, we are using classes. So you can list here any classes as you want on the back end. And when you save this configuration in next page, we can retrieve these classes on the layout builder dialog by two functions. We can just load this configuration from the backend and add a field for background color and assign maybe some styles by CSS or some other functionality by JavaScript. Because it's form, we can attach any library as we want. And then when we submit this form, it's add this class to the component setting in Layout Builder. And finally, the build function retrieve all the configurations that we saved in the component settings and try to read it and differentiate. If it's class, it should merge this class with the element default render array. If it's attribute, it can be assigned as attribute, for example, data dash, etc. So we can retrieve from JavaScript and do some other operations. So all the stuff I described is 100% flexible. You don't need to do it in this way. It's depend on the plugin type. It's depend on the functionality you like to visualize. We have some functions that let you kickstart, but all based on plugins. You can build your own plugin. You can build the direction of visualizing and whether you like to assign it as attributes or anything else. Bootstrap Layout Builder, it's a module utilize Bootstrap styles and depend on Bootstrap styles module. The main responsibility for Bootstrap Layout Builder is managing the grid. We have created a panel from backend so you can create a breakpoint and set the layouts per breakpoint in the first tab. The second tab, it's use this plugins and this groups from Bootstrap styles. So the concept around this, that we have inventory, which include all the styles, all the plugins we need. We can assign or reuse this styles as many as we need in our project. It doesn't matter. It can be a layout builder or it can be paragraph. It can be something on manage display. You like to assign this classes on fields, for example. We have built two modules right now, which is Bootstrap Layout Builder, so we can assign these plugins by classes to the section render array. So also we built Layout Builder blocks to assign these classes to the blocks itself. You can build your own module and integrate it whatever the purpose is. Also, we have added restriction option, so you can select only or enable only the plugins you want per section. And you have also the similar option when we talk later about layout builder blocks. The setting tab, if you like to add any additional configuration or additional classes, additional attributes, you still do that from advanced setting. To be honest, I'm not using this feature at all, but if anyone like to assign any custom classes, the module still supports this. Finally, layout builder block. As you can see on the image on the left, we have a tab for content. It works with any block type. We collect the configuration at this block or the content of this block, the fields, at one tab. And we have added another tab for style. And the second tab for style, it's contain the same plugins group you already saw on Bootstrap Layout Builder. And also we have a layer of restriction so we can enable these plugins per block type or disable the unwanted plugins. Finally, I have built this module in last month. It's called section library. After we build the section and we have added background color, we have added some styles, padding, margin, etc. And we placed these blocks with its style. We can reuse this templates or this section with its blocks over and over again, the same page or on a new page. So you can simply, after you build your component, your block and style everything, add to library, and then you can import it back from the library. Finally, our roadmap, we are now on Bootstrap styles in version 1.0.3, BLB 2.0.1, layout builder blocks 1.0.1, and section library in beta version. Our goal during the first 6 months of this year to release more features on Bootstrap styles, add more plugins. Also, when you build your own plugins, if you find it's something we can reuse or generic enough, feel free to contribute it. We can include it, of course. And we are working on responsive feature right now, which is allow us, for example, if you like to change a background color in mobile or tablet or any other device, we work on this, and it will be simple 3 or 4 functions. You can also integrate it on your custom plugin. In Bootstrap Layout Builder, we would like to add the ability to style the column, or if we speak about the terminology of Layout Builder, it will represent the region. Also, in Layout Builder blocks, we would like to add the ability to assign the styles or the plugins to field groups or the fields itself. For example, if you have a body field and you like to change this piece only in the Layout Builder blocks, you should be able to do this, because as I mentioned, all based on render array. Release a stable version of section library so you can reuse this over and over again. And at the end of the year, our goal, of course, merge more plugins, add the functionality of import and export templates between different environment of the same project. And we are studying now add this functionality to be something global, so you can have something like uh, sections, a hub or something like this. You can import in different projects. We still studying this, and of course any recommendation or help from community are welcome. And we would like to create or use, it can be something come from our community, create some blogs that fully integrated with this concept that I described. So that's our goal by end of the year. I hope you enjoyed the concept, and it's time to visualize this concept. So move to Aaron, who will demo these modules. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mahmoud. That was great.
Thanks.
All right, so this is the typical demo that you guys have probably seen if you visited any of our modules. It's usually the screenshot on the actual project page. This is kind of what we've been using for our development, and it just has a little bit of more of a unique feel than something that would be on like a base site. This is a super basic theme. It just has Bootstrap, the grid enabled on it. So that will be a requirement of your theme. And this is just using the Lightning distribution. I've added a couple menu links and placed a few blocks in our header and footer just to make it a little bit more presentable. So yeah, this is typically just a page that you already have Layout Builder enabled on. Once you get into creating your sections, like adding a section here, you will have your new Bootstrap Layout Builder layouts. And so within here, there's some configuration forms on the back end that Mahmoud was speaking of. You can find those under configuration, content authoring, and then we have a couple modules in here of our own. So that looks like this when you get to the breakpoint section. So we have our base class. This can be switched up for a different framework if you're not using Bootstrap. So you have the ability there. Inside of our layouts, this is that layout section that I was talking about. So within our to call, we can set up any number of options. So if you're seeing like you need a, you know, I think I have them all in here actually for 2 column, but if you did need another one for 3 column, where it was like 1/3 and then 1/3, 1/3, something like that, and it wasn't an option in here, you can add them, or you can, of course, limit these as well. Getting into that styles, this is the restriction part. So if you don't want to enable topography settings on layout builder on the actual sidebar or the off canvas menu, you can disable them here. And inside settings, you can actually toggle off the advanced settings. So if you don't need an extra panel here for setting any of these additional custom classes or so on, you can actually turn that off in the back end here as well. So that's the layout builder that handles all of the grid stuff in here. And so you can see these are all based on the base class, and then we do some configuration in the back end to populate these into the responsive parts that meet desktop, tablet, and mobile as our breakpoints. Inside of the style settings, we have, again, our plugin options. So you guys, this just uses the media module and core. You can set up some media types, and then in the back end, you can map them to the image and the video portion here. You also have the option to set its position, and then pretty much all the background attributes that you would need for things like a parallaxing effect or something like that. Under topography, you can set the background color. Sometimes you create a section and you assign it a dark color, but your theme, the default is also maybe black. So this is a good opportunity to set your color for the actual topography so it appears on the front end. You also have a spacing plugin out of the box. This just uses, again, classes. So in Bootstrap, this is like P-1 through 5, or if you added additional ones, you can configure those in the back end. And then you also have just the ability to set it on a per side basis. You can also do the same with margins. And so when you're just toggling this, it basically gets the calculation from the class that you set with the padding declared on your style sheet. So nothing that you guys need to configure in terms of calculations there. It all grabs it from the theme. Under our border, we have another option to do things like rounded corners, or if you want to set just a border on one side, you could do that. You can set your border styles. These are all configurable in the back end again. This is the box shadow plugin. So these are just classes, again, that you would assign in the back end. You have the ability to kind of see what it looks like if you had like a light box shadow, if you had a dark theme.
Excuse me, Aaron.
Yep.
We have one question. We only have about 5 minutes left in the presentation.
Okay. Yep.
Somebody
Go
was
ahead.
asking if Bootstrap is one of the most popular frameworks to use with Drupal.
To my knowledge, I believe it's one of the top ones. Yeah. I don't. Most of our websites that we do enterprise all use Bootstrap, so it is a well adopted theme out there. There's Barrio, which I believe is one of the top ranking themes. So we do a lot of our testing against Barrio and the Bootstrap theme as well.
Okay,
So,
that was another question we just had about whether Barrio was a theme you used.
Got it. Yep. Yep. So that's usually what we test against. This is more of a custom one. So this would be super basic. Like I said, it doesn't really have much other than setting up some colors. And then we're utilizing like Bootstrap for our classes to do the presentation side. Hope that answers that. Yeah, so I guess I'll just keep going through and you can interrupt me with more questions as you please. So the last piece is once we've created all the configuration on say our hero banner section, we want to reuse some of the things that we've set up in like we've had a background video uploaded. I don't think we've set our actual typography on this block, or sorry, it's probably set on the block rather than the on the section here, but we have some spacing and so on. So a lot of the times when we're building our components or essentially our landing pages, and the client wanted to reuse that section, coming in here and grabbing all the values was a little bit of a nightmare. So that's why we've built the section library module. So you can basically just add this whole section. It'll save the configuration of Bootstrap Layout Builder, so the grid, as well as any styles that you've attached to the section or any blocks within. And it basically just does something like a deep clone on that. You can set a label, upload an image, and usually what we do is we go on the front end, zoom out, take a screenshot of the section we just built. That way it doesn't have our nice layout builder grid in here, and then upload that. And then when we're creating a brand new page, so I just have a blank page here. So if we hit the layout tab, we can also, we can import just a section. So if we only wanted to import, say, like a ping pong block from our homepage, you can see it'll just import that section right in here. These are independent of one another as well. So if you are editing any content on this page, it doesn't edit it on the actual component or any previous page that has had that component added to it. And the last little piece of that module is the ability to import the collection of all of your sections onto your new page. So I saved the template on my previous page, and here I want to import it. And so you can see on our new blank page, we have all of our components that we saved from the home page. I saved this at a point where I was playing around with the box shadow. So this actually came through with the box shadow, but just to validate that isn't on the main page here that also uses the component there. So that kind of concludes the demo. Was there any other questions to field? Sounds pretty quiet.
Thanks so much for your talk today, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.